Was two things we would offer at this point. When I say we, as you know, I'm a member of Malcolm X grassroots movement,
Mm-hmm.
and also still a member of New African People's Organization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of our leading members some years ago wrote an article called the Jackson Kush Plan, and
Okay.
his name is Kalia Kuno, and he looking at Mississippi, particularly if you look at the western part of Mississippi, and also with counties bordering in northern Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
really southern Louisiana. What am I talking about? And also in Tennessee and parts of Arkansas, you have this belt, which we call the Kush District, where
Mm-hmm.
Black people, and it really comes from the Republic of New Africa's projections decades ago, that there's these counties that connect where Black people are clearly in the majority. And Jackson, Mississippi itself is like 80% Black.
Oh
So,
wow.
so how we would grow power there, what was proposed is number one, we need to start building economic cooperatives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where Black people are pooling their resources. Because you and I both know that there's resources in our community, but oftentimes, as has been said, the dollar comes in our community and rolls right out.
Yep.
And so we need to develop projects where we're growing wealth, even outside of our organizational effort. In some Black Belt counties in Mississippi, there have been Black people starting these economic cooperatives where they're pooling their wealth and they're using it to kind of grow wealth in the
Mm-hmm.
community. So in one Black majority county, Black people were able to finance the first Black owned gas station in that county. You
Oh
know,
wow. Okay.
cooperative putting their wealth together over years. So
Mm-hmm.
they have, in fact, their own own bank, really. You
Right.
know, just from pooling their wealth over years and making smart investments. But again, it's cooperatively owned. It's governed by certain principles. So there's
Mm-hmm.
certain things they wouldn't fund because of
Right.
their relationship to oppression, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a socially conscious, social justice oriented type of investments. The other piece is, um, we've had, as you said, political power, or somebody's had political power who looks like us in
Mm-hmm.
many of these communities around the country. But oftentimes they have an agenda that really doesn't represent us. And so
Absolutely.
another piece of the program is to have what we call people's assemblies all throughout that area.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, People's assemblies would be, and this is based upon what Chokwe Lumumba did when he ran for first for city council in 2009, and then for mayor in 2013. And if I want your listeners, if you don't know who Chokwe Lumumba was,
Mm-hmm.
Google him. He was a longtime activist, a radical attorney,
Mm-hmm.
freedom fighter born in Detroit, who moved to Jackson, Mississippi, along with his family, and they were able to like represent and build a strong respect in the community. So
Mm-hmm.
he was asked really to run for mayor, and rather than just like run like any other person that run for office before,
Right.
they built in his ward. First, I said mayor, but first for city council in 2009. So in his ward, they built a people's assembly where everybody in that ward, and this is everybody who's an adult, could participate and could help shape a platform. It's
Mm-hmm.
and then from that platform, this is a platform he ran on, and then after he was elected, they maintained the People's Assembly, and that's where he got his direction from in terms of voting for policy. They also began to work on things themselves like educational policy and
Okay.
educational issues, or organizing the youth in the community and providing direction for the youth in the community. Economic development. So it became another form of people making decisions,
Mm-hmm.
uh, not only to give directions to the politicians, but also a basis for uh, people's government, if you will.
Right.
So So rather than us electing people and having no relationship with them, whatever their term is, and them being manipulated or selling us out to corporate interests, it became
Mm-hmm.
a vehicle for people to have a voice, whether it was in government or outside of government,
Right.
with the possibility of, who knows, there being real people's power down the line. And so we see the People's Assembly, and we're for those living in the Atlanta area, we're looking at building people's assemblies in metropolitan Atlanta. We in February we're hosting a conference called the State of Black Atlanta. Already Oakland has done something similar and is moving along the same process. It might look differently here in Atlanta because our situation is different from Jackson,
Right.
but the People's Assembly concept will be is a vehicle for us to begin to make decisions as a community. We're focusing on Black majority jurisdictions. We're
Mm-hmm.
not excluding anybody. White people could come and they can
Right.
participate because they're our neighbors
Mm-hmm.
also, and hopefully, if they got the right type of mindset, they could participate based upon the agenda that we would come up with in our community.
Right.
And so, but it comes a way for us as Black people to come together and start to discuss the issues and try to move for some empowerment in our communities.
Right.
So
Right.
that's our view right now in the moment we're in.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment we're in, like there was a time I thought we could just run up and take it, and we probably could have given the right type of organization. But right
Mm-hmm.
now, it's going to take us building and building unity and building some consciousness. And
Okay.
us, the People's Assembly, would give us a basis to have conversations with each other to come on somewhat of the same page and build a common agenda. One of the things with Black politics has been too personality driven, and
Mm-hmm.
whereas we elect both personalities, but as I said before, the corporate interests, they know what their agenda is, and they're able to oftentimes co-opt or overpower the people that
Right.
put in position. So
Right.
that's the
Right.
next, we feel, is the next stage of development. I remember at one time after Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, and those in 1966, they had the Lowndes County Freedom Organization in Alabama. It
Mm-hmm.
was the first, what you call a Black Panther Party.
Okay.
And so some people said after that the Black Panther Party was the next stage of development. But what they meant at that time wasn't necessarily what Bobby and Huey created, but it was
Mm-hmm.
a grassroots party that all of our people participated in. We kind of see the People's Assembly as the next stage of political development for Black people. And that's
Okay.
keeping our communities engaged. We're not seeking to build a vanguard group that's supposed to be the savior.
Right.
In
Right.
hip hop terms, wouldn't be the Captain Save 'em. We're looking for all of us to become organized
Mm-hmm.
to create a platform and agenda that works in our people's interests. And those of us who do consider ourselves revolutionaries or conscious, we need to get in the mix with our people and try to build some unity and to put some ideas out there and let people grapple with them and see if they can embrace them or not. That'd be a good test for us to see if what we're talking about is real, if we can sell it to our folks,
Mm-hmm.
can embrace it, but really also to listen to our folks and to see what their ideas are. Maybe we can
Right.
come up with something even better and stronger.
Right. I love it. I love it because it definitely seems like it is a nurturing, a space to build and also support and develop, like you were saying, like we don't need a bunch of Captain Savings, but but leadership, when we're talking about these different roles, it helps people can be leaders. We don't need just that one person. Like everyone can be a contributing member in their own way. We all have our different strengths in that. And I do think that because of the way development has happened with different movements. And I mean, we had such a void for such a long time. We lost so many people, not we lost, some people were taken from us, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we had a leadership vacuum to some extent in some ways where we just had, one after the other just taken away. So there is this hope put upon that one chosen person to come and uplift us and save us all. I mean, we've seen it in the last 8 years to a little extent with President Obama even. But that's someone else with corporate interests to some extent that, especially when you talk about education, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I like this motto in terms of like I talk to people all the time about, because it's so polarizing with this election, but really when we talk about not just state and local elections, but even looking at what's going on, in our individual communities, how those decisions are being made and how we can be involved in that process. Because so many of us feel like, the process it's not for us, nobody's gonna listen anyway. But if you're organized and together, like I think about the Hasidim community in New York, in Brooklyn in particular, I mean, they are not a huge majority in Brooklyn at all, but they are tight, they are organized, and they have their systems in place. So whatever that community needs, they make sure it happens. Right. And there are other communities like that. That's just the first example I could think of off the top of my head. But there are so many examples where people are able to organize, even if they're not a super majority, even if they don't have super access to wealth. But like you were saying earlier, that's why people build an economic base and you pool your resources together. Right. Not this nonsense they tell us about the American dream and pulling yourself up by yourself on your bootstraps. No, like it's just not, the system's not designed for that to work for people. And so I like what you're talking about in terms of growing political and social economic power in this fashion, but also it seems like we're developing people, right? We're developing that human capital that has been, we've been starved of for so long in some cases as well.
And economic power is not just the wealth side of it, but it's the side of it too, to say, okay, we're going to collectively buy this or we're not going to buy this. Right. That gives us a certain amount of leverage to get certain interests met. And our consumer power power right now is diffused and people are pimping us.
Yes.
That's the relationship. If people pimping us, that makes us, right? It's more in a collective fashion, cooperative fashion, where we can again exercise some leverage as consumers and as people who collectively or cooperatively own enterprises.